You are listening to 15 Minutes, the show with Osiris Munir, only on LA Talk Radio.
Up, it's me. I'm live here in person at LA Talk Live, a radio LA radio show. Talk radio, and I am Osiris. If you don't know, with 15 Minutes the show. So, hey everybody, what's everybody out there doing? So, if you're alive during this holiday season, that means that you survived COVID, you survived the presidential campaign, you are surviving and preparing for the torrential rains we're supposed to have ahead, and we're also surviving the bleak yet very needed holiday season. So I want to say, hey, everybody, do your best to stay close to yourselves, your inner selves. Try not to worry too much because it doesn't do any good, even though I know it's impossible not to worry. But the best thing to do is try to focus on what we have and be grateful and appreciative. And then more things will come to support us in our lives. So that's what I got to say about that today. So back to the show and our guest. Boy, let me tell you something. I almost started crying when I heard this guy was coming on my show. His name is, wait a minute, let me just lead. I won't tell you his name yet. Let me just tell you what he's done. He is like a walking encyclopedia that can recite Wikipedia on just about any aspect or area of the entertainment industry you want to talk about. He's been a radio host, a TV host, a performer, a writer, an author. He's Grammy-nominated writer. He's an Emmy award winner for a documentary he did. He's written 3 books. He is best known for his associations and deep involvement with Lucille Ball. Lucy! Ethel Merman, my girl. I'm glad I lived long enough to meet somebody that actually knows about Ethel Merman. And last but not least, our baby, Ella Fitzgerald. We got to talk to, welcome to our set, Geoffrey Mark. Hey, yeah.
Hey, woo, 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 woo.
Woo, 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 hey.
While we were waiting for the show to start, we met for the first time. We fell in love. We got married. We had 3.2 children. And now we're both here with you.
That's I am so happy. I'm like, Ethel Merman. I was trying to envision the essence, and they still live. Their energies are still so vibrant. So welcome to our show.
My pleasure.
I am so happy to be talking to you. Thank you for being around for me to talk to. And first of all, I want to know, in your opinion, why you think that these kinds of stories are still so important, even years later, for us to know. I mean, for me, it's important. Other people, it's important too. We didn't know anyone that knew the story. So now we do. So let us have it.
You just said it. The reason I started writing books is because there were these stories that no one was telling. You know, Ella Fitzgerald, I think, the greatest singer who ever lived, male or female. No disrespect to Mr. Sinatra or Miss Streisand or anybody else. There was no book written about her. There was no, taking a line through someone's life. There was no line written. Why did she sing that? And how did that happen? And she sang Mac the Knife and won a Grammy Award. How come, all the how comes. How does a girl from Yonkers, New York become Ella Fitzgerald? Nothing had been written. With Lucille Ball, there had been so many books written about her private life, her marriage to Mr. Arnaz, and none of them painted her in a positive light particularly, or Mr. Arnaz. And they missed the point. We don't sit here watching I Love Lucy marathons because of who either of them slept with or what they had for breakfast. We watch because it's wonderful. And I wanted to tell you how it became wonderful and dispel all the myths and tell the truth, because the truth is even more interesting than all the myths about these people. And the same thing with Miss Merman. Her marriage to Ernest Borgnine that lasted 48 hours. That alone worth the price of the book.
What happened? Can we hear Let's see?
Oh, sure.
Let's hear some of the she.
So Miss Merman had been married and divorced 3 times. And she meets Ernest Borgnine just after she finishes doing Gypsy on Broadway and on tour. And she's done the movie It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. And they meet at a party. She had never seen McHale's Navy. He had never seen her perform live anywhere. But there was a physical attraction. Merman liked craggy, beefy guys. And I understand he made her happy in bed. So
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I'm trying not to use any you let me know if I can use dialogue, but
you can do whatever you want to, because as far as I understand, some of the limits that used to be on radio are no longer there. And from what I can see from YouTube and other things, people are not really monitoring their conversation. We're having real conversation. That's why it's called LA Radio Real Talk.
No, I've been on LA Talk Radio before, and I had a while. Okay, so I'm going to tell the real story.
Tell the real story. We want to hear it.
And not the punchline, but the finish has a naughty word in it.
Okay.
So they began dating. Now, Merman was touring the country with her one woman, An Evening with Ethel Merman. Borgnine was making McHale's Navy. And finally, he proposed. It seems that the entire year or so that they were dating, they drank a lot. They had sex a lot. But I don't know that they actually talked a lot about what a life together might look like. And Merman has her reservations because she's, 3 times made mistakes. Lucille Ball throws Ethel a surprise wedding shower on a lot of Desilu Studios.
What?
Well, they were very close friends.
Nobody knows that.
Lucille Ball had been a chorus girl at Sam Goldwyn Studios when Ethel Merman was making movies with Eddie Cantor in the early mid-30s. They met back then through Ann Southern, who was also in the picture, and the 3 of them became loved their mothers, loved a good dirty joke, not intelligent, but not intellectuals. They bonded. Well, all these years later, Lucille now owns this studio, the biggest studio in the world, and throws Merman a wedding shower. And Merman felt she could no longer back out because Lucille Ball, the biggest television star in the world, has thrown her a wedding shower. So she marries Ernie, and there's problems even in the wedding. Ernie's daughter hurt herself. Like she broke her arm, actually. So
the day of the wedding?
The day of the wedding. So after the ceremony, Ernie had to take his daughter to the hospital. So Merman goes to the reception in a limousine with her agent. And her agent hands her a bill. And she says, "What's this?" He said, "It's the bill for the reception." She said, "Why are you handing it to me?" He said, "Because Borgnine's people said that your parents are still alive and the parents of the bride always pay for the reception." She said, "My parents are in their 80s. They don't have this kind of money. Who's going to pay them?" He said, "You are."
Oh.
Strike one. The next day, Ethel and Ernie invite Lucille Ball, her husband Gary Morton, and my dear wonderful friends Carol Cook and Tom Troop over for cocktails and coffee and dessert because they're about to leave on a cruise to Japan. That's Ernie's wedding gift to her. And in the middle of martinis and scotch and coffee and cake and stuff, Ernie lets it be known that actually this trip is being paid for by a Japanese brewery because Ernie had done some commercials in Japan for the beer in his McHale's Navy outfit.
Oh, okay.
And Merman said to herself, I paid taxable income for the reception, and his wedding gift to me is a non-taxable gift from somebody else. Strike two. They get on the ship the next day. In those days, first of all, they don't have first class anymore, but in those days they did. And people in first class did not go to the dining room for dinner on the first night. Everybody stayed in their cabins, unpacked, did their hair, got used to things. So they were in their cabin. And Ernie is aware that his wife is angry and drinking. So Ernie starts to drink. They have a very quiet dinner. And now it's playtime. And it's their honeymoon. The first night of their honeymoon, really, the trip. And they get into bed. And Ernie, whether out of anger or too much liquor, couldn't rise to the occasion.
He couldn't do it, y'all. The man couldn't get it up in the bed. That's what happened from drinking too much liquor.
That's it. So Ethel, like so many millions and billions of wives and all through eternity, did things to help stimulate him.
Yeah. She was trying to help him rise to the occasion, in other words.
Yes, orally. And nada. Now, Ethel was drunk. Ernie was drunk. And she looks up at him and says, what's the matter? You some kind of a fag?
Oh.
Yeah. Ernie, being Ernie, slaps Ethel across the face.
Oh.
Ethel, being Ethel, slaps him back. Ernie, being Ernie, takes his fist and gives her one right across the chin that throws her out of bed and lands her on her behind. Ethel gets up, walks over to the phone, asks for ship to shore, which back then was the only way you could call someone. Very expensive.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Called her attorney and said, I want out. Her attorney said, Ethel, you married him in California. If you walk out before 28 days, he'll charge you with desertion and he'll get to keep
everything.
All your stuff you moved into his house, all the wedding presents. Well, she wasn't going to have that. She got a different cabin. They got to Japan. She flew home and she lived in his house for 28 days separately from him, never speaking to him. On the 28th day, a moving van showed up, took everything of hers that was in the house, all the wedding presents. And if I know Ethel, probably a little more than that.
Just to make him feel bad, you know, she didn't want to just...
And the button on all of this was she went to London to do a BBC special. Mm-hmm. And the guy producing it was a man named Buddy Brigman, a friend of mine, who had written the arrangements for a couple of Ella's albums. See, this all ties together.
I see.
And he was producing An Evening on the BBC, An Evening with Ethel Merman. And they were having dinner in a very fancy restaurant in London. And Buddy was not the master of tact. Ethel, why did you marry him? Why? Pushing and pushing and pushing. And they're in this very, exclusive. And finally, she had enough of his pushing, and she slams her hand down on top of the table. All right, because he had a cock this big.
I love it. So that's why you started the conversation with, and a lot of people do this. So don't be out there laughing, trying to make fun or feeling like it's some kind of unknown situation. A lot of people marry based on how somebody looks, their status in life, how if they're sexually endowed, male, female, or whatever, that you can please in the bed without thinking, do I even like this person? Do they like me? Do we get along? Is there anything in common? I know, because I've been there. So I'm telling you that
haven't we all?
Yeah, be careful about who we bring into our energetic atmosphere.
Well, in Ethel's case, she became famous in her early 20s. At this point, she had been in, at this point, 15, 14, 13 hit Broadway musicals. She'd done a half a dozen movie musicals. She'd just come off of she stole a whole movie. It's a mad, 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 mad world from every comedian who was alive practically. Her life was, I'm Ethel Merman. And let's discuss how you fit in with me being Ethel
My
Merman.
world. Mm-hmm.
I don't know that Ethel knew how to be a wife. She certainly couldn't cook. She never cleaned. She never
She and
cleaned
Beyonce.
anything in her day. And the only thing she did wifely, if that's even a thing, is she did needlepoint. And Mary Martin
Did
taught her
it in
how to do
bed?
that.
Did she have? She was a bed warmer, carpet creature.
Her life was her career, and that putting somebody else first, other than her beloved parents, didn't really occur to her.
Which leads me into another question.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you wrote the Lucy book, Ethel Merman, the biggest star on Broadway, which I love. I don't remember really hearing anybody much on Broadway except for Ethel Merman. I mean, a lot. And then you wrote 2 books on Ella Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite of the 3? And then the second part to that question is, how did women get them? They're powerful women. Number one, you're in a male-dominated industry.
Yes.
You're a powerful woman. You're a star, and I'm talking even up to modern day. So you're talking Halle Berry, Jennifer, all of these women that are powerful. Then you get with these men that may be mediocre. They may not match you. They may be the kitchen doctor from up the street at the Shell service station. Or you get somebody in your own field that your name may be bigger than theirs. Then where does the ego? How do you balance it? What do? You just stay single? What?
Well, I want to know. There's no guarantees. Look, it is amazing that any 2 people ever get together. I mean, as friends, never mind as lovers and spouses. And in Merman's case, it never worked for her. In Miss Ball's case, Desi was the love of her life, I believe. Desi was able to put aside his own very large ego. I mean, all of us in show business have these egos. We have to, or we couldn't walk on a stage or stand in front of a camera.
Absolutely.
But Mr. Arnaz took care of his wife the best he could. I love Lucy. His name comes first. He's the I, but the name of the show is Lucy.
Lucy.
You get it? In Ella's case, it didn't work at all.
She wasn't married?
She married once. Well, she married once when she was very young and it was annulled. Some guy was trying to take advantage of her celebrity. She married Ray Brown, the incredibly handsome bass player. Their marriage didn't last very long, but they remained friends the rest of her life. Good friends. It's what they should have probably been to begin with. Miss Fitzgerald, at a time when this was an enormous no-no, liked white blonde men.
I am not mad at her. Do you hear me? Girl was trying to get out of a box. Like, can I experience something else before I decide what I'm going to define myself as? I love it.
So Miss Fitzgerald kept an apartment in I won't say where, in one of those northern countries in Europe, because she traveled through Europe so often performing. And then when she had some time off, she'd go to the apartment and there'd be blonde men for her to enjoy.
I heard that, girl.
Because Ella, like Merman and like Miss Ball probably had the biggest personal life of the 3.
Oh, okay.
Lucille Ball threw parties, loved Desi, loved Gary, her second husband, loved her children, very close to her mother. I think of the 3, Miss Ball had the better, not the best. I'm using my words carefully.
I see.
But of the 3, the better personal life.
What about the kid? The only thing I look at this all the time, I myself and you as well. when we have something we love, we're creative. You're
Yes.
compelled. You're compelled. You're compelled. It doesn't go away. It doesn't matter how old you are, what you've been through. If you are purposed and meant to do something to share in this world, it will haunt you until you live up to what the mission is supposed to be. I know you know what I'm talking about. So what happened with geez, the kids must have just felt like, what the hell?
Well, Ella had a son, Ray Brown Jr., who was actually the son of her sister, who had a baby out of wedlock, and Ella and Ray adopted him and raised him as their son.
Oh, wow.
He lives in Hawaii. He's very handsome, very well spoken, and very nice.
Oh, wow.
He found a way to accept how little of his mother he could get. He understood the career and knew that she loved him. Ethel Merman had a son and a daughter. Unfortunately, little Ethel, because that was her daughter's name, died in 1967
Oh, I'm sorry.
of an incautious overdose of liquor and pills.
Mm.
So Ethel's daughter suffered from mental illness. One of the tragedies of Merman's life. And Ethel, Tony Awards, and
Everything.
we could take the entire show just listing the songs Ethel Merman introduced that became hits. There's 40 or 50 of them. People don't
Can you name
realize.
a few just for the audience? Because I love the kids listen to my show. Thanks, kids. They listen to my show and they don't know anyone that knows these people, but they find the
Okay.
stories just like so
All right.
fascinating.
So Ethel Merman introduced, I got rhythm, I got music, I got my man who could ask for anything more. I get no kick from champagne. In olden days, a glimpse of stocking was, you'll be swell, you'll be great. There's no business like show business. They say that falling in love is wonderful. It's delightful. It's delicious. It's the lovely. I mean, it goes on and
Everything.
on and on.
And
Everything.
everybody, now remember, Halle Berry did that song in the Dandridge movie. So that's
Yes.
where I remember it most. So some people may connect it depending on where you are in your life. You may connect it to that because she did that movie and did the song in that movie. But anybody that's anybody, no matter what your age, if you are interested in Hollywood trivia, old movies, which I love, old classics, some of the language is amazing, and the dialogue, then you would know who Ethel Merman and all these people are. Simple as that. Do your homework.
I've been a very lucky man in that my career has been Broadway and Hollywood. So besides Hollywood, I've gotten to know Ethel Merman, Mary Martin, Carol Channing, Liza Minnelli, Gwen Verdon, Cheetah Rivera. I did a show with Cheetah. The list goes on. I've been so fortunate and blessed to meet these people. Some of these people I just met, some of them I knew, some of them became friends, and some of them I worked with. Carol Channing was
and they trusted you. They bought you close to their life. They didn't bring you close to their life to, oh yeah, every time there's a moment, he's going to be telling our secrets. It's number one, I found from being in the industry about over 30 years now, it's really hard to come in and get them to trust because so many people want them for nothing. They don't want them because they're looking at them as human beings. Like, what can I get? What can I get? What can I get?
No, yeah, and I'm celebrating 50 years in show business as we're talking.
I know. I saw that you said the 50th anniversary. Yay!
Yeah, yay! So, but I mean, I started as a kid. I'm not 105, but
he's 5. He's 5.
I think it's I've asked people, why do you think I've had so much access through the years? I think some of it is talent. I think talented people recognize other people with talent. I think it was burning ambition. I think people saw how much I wanted it and that I was willing to do the hard work to get it. I didn't want anything handed to me. I wanted mentoring. And hopefully because I'm a nice guy, and they could sense that I wasn't going to, let's put it that you mentioned trust people.
Yes. Trust, keyword.
I have turned down $500,000
Why?
to write a book about everything I know
Oh,
about Desi Arnaz and his family going back to Cuba, and Miss Ball and her family and her children and her grandchildren. I turned down $500,000. You want to know why?
why?
Because Lucy Arnaz and Desi Arnaz Jr. are friends of mine who have been absolutely wonderful,
Good to you.
generous, thoughtful, what I really needed it. And I promised in return I would never discuss. I mean, I can say Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz divorced, but I'm not going to discuss why.
You shouldn't.
That's no one's business
No
but
one's
the
business but
family.
theirs. That's right.
And
And
Desi
so
and
what
I,
happened to, I want to know, I'm doing this because I remember those show when it used to come in. I want to know what happened to, how did he go to Cuba? What happened for him to go to Cuba? Did they live part-time in Cuba and the US, or they lived, did they honor
which
any of his tradition along with hers?
which they are you speaking of?
Desi and Lucy, Miss Lucy.
Desi Arnaz could never return to Cuba.
Why? He lost his
Des,
citizenship?
no. It's a much longer, a bigger story. Desi, you know, I once started to do a documentary about him, and I decided not to do it. The president of the Television Academy at that time called the Prince of Cuba. Desi Arnaz's family in Cuba were educated, wealthy, and powerful. On his mother's side, his grandfather was one of the founders of the Bacardi Rum Company.
Shut up.
On his
Really?
father's side, his grandfather went up San Juan Hill with Teddy Roosevelt. He was a doctor. His father was the mayor of the town. His uncle was the chief of police of the town. His father became the governor of their sector of Cuba. I say Cuba because that really has how they
That's how you
pronounce
said
it.
it. Cuba.
Cuba.
Yeah, it's Cuba.
But the Batista Revolution happened. I mean, Desi was brought up with yachts and motor cars
So
and
he was not
farms.
poor.
Oh, no, not until he got to America. Then he was poor. But he was brought up like the pampered, handsome, incredibly handsome
Very.
young scion of a very powerful, wealthy family. They lost everything. His mother and father and he got out with their lives
What
and
what
nothing
what
else.
what happened?
What happened?
Or what was
His
happening for them to have to escape
revolution. There was a
Cuba?
revolution in Cuba, and everybody
Oh,
who was associated with the old regime was either killed or put into prison. They escaped. Happily, they escaped.
that's
His
when
mother,
Castro came in, right?
no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Castro is 20 years later, 25 years later. This is the
Oh,
Batista Revolution.
oh,
Castro overthrew Batista.
oh,
Batista overthrew Desi's family,
oh, wow. This is interesting.
more or less.
Get out. Get
And
out.
Desi, his mother and father divorced. Desi came to this country. He and his father lived in an empty warehouse with rats and vermin when they first moved here.
Mm.
From that, with no help, Desi ended up owning the largest movie studio in the world and had the #1 television program ever, as far as I'm concerned. There's been nothing better or more popular than I Love Lucy. Desi
So he
was,
came up with the concept of I Love Lucy, not Lucille Ball.
neither of them came up with the concept.
Oh, okay. So how did the two of them get together to get married and then put their lives prospectively together? How did
Okay.
that happen?
Lucille Ball was a contract actress at RKO Studios,
Okay.
which was located on Melrose Avenue in Hollywood. They shared a large square block, RKO did, with Paramount. They were back to back, separated by a wall.
Okay.
Desi had become a huge hit in New York, both as a nightclub performer, because when he went chick chicky boom, it was more like Tom Jones and Elvis Presley than he was ever allowed to do on television. And Desi became this huge sex symbol in New York. He was
Hmm.
in a Broadway musical written by Rodgers and Hart called Too Many Girls, and RKO bought the rights to the show to make a film out of it. Desi and some of the original cast, including his standby, Van Johnson, who was a chorus boy, came west to make the film.
Mm-hmm.
The girl who was the female lead of the musical couldn't come. And RKO put in their contract actress, Lucille Ball, instead. They met on the lot of RKO. They had their first real conversation at the commissary at RKO, and they fell in love hard, quick, and lovely. And lovely. They were both attached to other people. They let the other people go, and they got together and
Did you hear
got
what
married.
he said? He said they let the other, like, look, it's been really nice talking to you and everything, but I just found home right here, and I think I'm going to be staying here for a
Yes.
very long time. So listen, then how that is that's a wonderful, wonderful story. So there had to be a cultural difference.
Of course.
He's Cuban, she's American. There had to be the difference between him being a male star and her being, they're both equally accepted in their various fields and careers. So, did you ever see their egos? Was she, as a woman, and during this time period, was she able to drop her ego to some degree when he was around? Did he drop his? Did they respect each other respectively when they were together on set? And why did she end up playing the dumb? I'm dumb, and he's the brilliant man in the show.
You asked 17 questions. I'll try to give you 17 answers.
Oh,
That's all right. Well, let me give you a little history. If I give you a little timeline history, it'll answer all your questions.
okay.
So, Too Many Girls makes Desi into a movie star. Lucille stays at RKO and then moves to MGM for even bigger pictures, where she became a redhead for the first time at the Max Factor building, which is now the Hollywood Museum. Plug. Danelle Dadigan is a friend of mine who owns it.
Hey, Hollywood.
And I got my first professional makeup at their redheads room. So I have a strong connection to that building. They made films. She became a really big movie star. Desi, they didn't know what to do with. He was too ethnic, too dark. He spoke with a very heavy accent. And his smoldering sexuality was probably a bit too much for World War II audiences. So Desi formed an orchestra and spent the 40s just going all over the country with his orchestra. He had some hit records, Babalu, Cuban Pete, Cuban Cabby. And they both went to radio to make extra money, because in those days you could do that. You could do other things and also be in radio, which I love radio.
I didn't know that. Wow.
So Lucille Ball got into a sitcom called My Favorite Husband, which was not conceived by, but after a very short time written by Jess Oppenheimer, Madeline Pugh, Martin Davis, and Bob Carroll Jr.
Yes.
Those names sound familiar because you saw them on the credits of I Love Lucy.
Yes. Yeah.
Desi became Bob Hope's band leader on his variety show.
What?
And then Desi had a quiz show called Your Tropical Trip. In the late 40s, CBS, William Paley owned it, wanted to bring his big radio shows to television, which is a brand new medium. Jack Benny, George Burns, and Gracie Allen. And he wanted to bring My Favorite Husband to television. And Lucille Ball said, no, not unless Desi plays my husband, because radio was almost like stealing money. You got paid these tens of thousands of dollars a week. And
on radio?
and you're reading a script. You're not even memorizing the words. There's no costume changes. There's no set. There's no props. You're just in front of a microphone reading and hopefully being funny if it's a comedy.
Wow.
And Bill Paley said, no, we cannot have a mixed marriage on television.
Oh.
No one will accept that.
Get the.
So Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz went on the road doing a vaudeville act in between showings of films. It was hugely successful, but they had to cut it short because Miss Ball got pregnant. But it did well enough that Bill Paley said, okay, she lost the baby, but got pregnant again.
Yeah.
They did a pilot for this show based on My Favorite Husband, but they had to change the characters and the names and things. So it, from Lucille Ball and Richard Denning playing her husband, and Gail Gordon and Bea Benaderet playing the older couple. Gail Gordon was Mr. Mooney on the Lucy Show, and Here's Lucy. Bea Benaderet was the voice of Betty Rubble and Gracie Allen's best friend.
Really?
The star of Petticoat Junction.
Wow.
They had to recast everything. They did a pilot. Philip Morris, the cigarette company, bought it. And I Love Lucy went on the air a couple of months after Lucy Arnaz was born. And then she found out she was pregnant again. And that pushed I Love Lucy to universal, like, everyone loved her and him and Bill Frawley and Vivian Vance and the shows. And then I still think it's probably the best produced show ever.
And it's still funny. Now, let me ask you, the little boy that played their son, that was their real son? No. Okay. Okay.
When she became pregnant, Miss Ball, there was a decision made that whatever she actually had, the baby was going to be a boy. So that little Lucy Arnaz wasn't going to get confused and maybe jealous that there's a girl up there more or less playing her. But all right. So they had the boy, Desi Arnaz Jr. They decided in the final season of I Love Lucy, the 6th season, that they were going to age little Ricky to actually have an actor with speaking part. Like he becomes a character. He goes from being this toddler to all of a sudden he's in school and he can talk, and they had auditions. They wanted someone who looked enough like Desi that it would be acceptable, and someone who could play the drums. And they auditioned people, and they got Keith Thibodeau, who they called Richard Keith. So if they called him Richard Keith, he could really be Little Ricky. Richard Ricky is a nickname, right?
Oh.
So Keith Thibodeau played Little Ricky for the last season of I Love Lucy, and for the 3 years they did hour-long versions of I Love Lucy. Desi Jr. and Lucy Arnaz were only in the very last episode, and even they both waffle on whether it was actually them or someone else, or Lucy thinks it was her but not her brother, and her brother thinks it was him but not his sister, and I think it was both of them. Lucy Arnaz and Desi Jr. had their own careers in the 60s is when they got started. And Desi was a millionaire by the time he was 16 on his own without his parents because of Dino, Desi, and Billy, the rock group he was in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Lucy Arnaz is just a force of nature. So, so they protected as well as they could. Keith left Hollywood. He's a born-again Christian, and he and his wife run a ballet company that dances to contemporary Christian music.
Well, after Hollywood, can you blame him? He said, well, Hollywood is in me, but I better take it to somewhere else because of what I've seen, people.
And Keith's a nice man. I've known him for years. The name of their company, I'll give Keith a commercial, Ballet Magnificat.
Ballet
Magnificat.
C-A-T-K-A-T?
C-A-T.
Okay. Did you guys get that?
So those of you who want to book
Magnificat.
So those of you who want to book a ballet corps that dances to Christian music, contact them.
Okay. There you
and
go.
They've got 3 or 4 different companies dancing all over the world.
That's amazing that he stayed in it, but he did it where he could
His way.
get something else out of it in his way. Yeah. So let me ask you, you are an Emmy Award winner. I know that you create and write documentaries for cable television.
And
You're
reality
Emmy award
TV.
and reality TV, and you're an winning Emmy Award winner, and you're also a nominated Grammy Award winner. What
And
do those awards mean to you, and how do they drive you to stay in the game? To stay in the game.
money, 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 money. Can you use anybody today?
Today.
I didn't know I was going to be singing today.
I don't- I'm helping you.
I'm glad my voice is warming up. And
Go
as
ahead
long
and
as
sing if you want to. That's what
and
I
as
want to
yeah,
hear.
a whole song costs money, honey. For free, you get snippets.
Okay.
Up on my wall,
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
up on my wall, I also have certificate of special congressional recognition from the United States Congress.
Oh,
I have
wow.
certificate of recognition from the California State Assembly. I have an award, the Miracle Award from a charity. What does it mean to me? On one level, it means I must be doing something right. That my peers
Respect
and
you.
people who are not my peers, the Congress is not my peers, but I think Congress, those things are more for my charity work than just for being another celebrity in show business. There's a history with me in charity. The one I'm most proud of is, and it's a very long story, but in the 80s, during the AIDS crisis, Dr. Matilda Krim, who some of you might recognize the name,
Yeah, I heard of
came to me and said, I've been to the president, I've been to the governor, I've been to the mayor. This is in New York City. I think I can prolong life and make life better for people who have AIDS. I can't get any money. How can you help? And for 4 years, I put on 10-hour-long live variety shows in
Oh, wow.
Prospect Park in Brooklyn. We raised an awful lot of money. I was the producer and the host, and I performed along with 100 other people.
Mhm.
And Dr. Krim took the money to Elizabeth Taylor, and they started AMFAR with that.
Oh, that's how Amber. I was wondering how that came about.
Well, it came
Well,
about with money.
wow.
It came about with money I helped to raise. So I'm proud of that. I'm glad I did it. And that's probably why I've gotten some of the recognition I've gotten. Yeah, and yes, you're having me on your show, and I walk red carpets, and I'll give my publicist Harlan Bowl a plug. It's
Hey,
nicer to say
Harlan, I love him. I met him in person. He's amazing. I love
he
him. I
is
want to hear his story too.
probably one of the most ethical human beings I've ever met. I trust him implicitly.
Yes.
And he, hey, this is Geoffrey Mark, Emmy winner, Grammy nominee. Talk to him. It makes it easier to sell me. So on a personal level, how honored I am is ridiculous. It's beyond, I don't have words for how honored I am. But on a professional level, it helps. It helps get my name out there. And,
It
I
helps
believe
keep you in the game. Like I said, when I met Harlan on a red carpet. It was my first experience with the Hollywood Museum doing anything media wise. And so I saw the kind of people that he worked with. So when I got this show, Harlan was one of the first people I called saying I would love it if you would just send me everybody that you got, because I know you got some people based on who I met at the event. And when
you
he told
probably
me you were coming on, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, okay, you know what? For other people, I don't know how you may think about it, but this man is like gold. It's like gold. You don't even know the kind of caliber, the kind of essence these people have, that they're around still. Some of the people in the day's time, they didn't make it out. They're dead and gone already, and didn't even live past their youth.
right.
So for someone to be able to come and look in your beautiful faces out there and vibe with your amazing essences of who you are is not only a heavenly treat, it is my treat. And I feel very, very honored. I would rather have these kind of people, and I'm being honest, I love Kim Kardashian and all the people they do the news about and Diddy and all these people. But to me, that's like a tarnished part of Hollywood that I really don't want to know. I would rather stay in this period where, and I'm not saying I don't embrace all of it because we all do, but I'd rather stay where I can envision when it was pretty and it really was glamorous and the stars were really stars. You know, you didn't really hear about their personal life until they were gone. And then you had something juicy to hear and talk about. You know, now they just kind of, okay, they're gone. And then they do a little bit of information on them. They're on to the next thing. So I want to thank you again, Geoffrey.
You
For
know, it's a, you
I
mentioned
want to
all
thank
that. You mentioned you're more than I'm delighted to be here with you. Probably met me on the red carpet.
I
So
might have.
I probably was there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
You know, when people want to interview me, it usually goes one of two ways. They want to hear about my work, and we keep it to that because that's what the host wants. Or they want to talk about my affair with Freddie Mercury, and they want to talk about my being a witness to John Lennon's assassination, and they want to talk about my personal life and who I've slept with, and my 35 years clean and sober off of alcohol and drugs.
Good for
So
you.
thank you. It all depends on the host's desire. I do a lot of press. I'm on, I don't know how many, way over 100 shows a year.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing it. I love talking to the fans. I love answering questions, especially for people whose vibe is so good, who have wonderful energy. And you didn't ask me this, so I'm going to throw it in. We're all different. We all bring different things to the table. And I don't just mean ethnicities, because even within ethnicities, we're all different.
That's right.
I once had a conversation with an African American friend who was very determined that I could not understand what it's like to be African American. And I said, well, no, I have no idea what it's like to be African American. But I am gay. I am Jewish. And for people who care about people being white or not, to those people, I am not white. And I said to him, I have been beaten by the police, and I have been followed and threatened by the Ku Klux Klan. Mm-hmm. So do I understand it? All of it? No, I can't. But I get it.
You relate. You can relate. You
I've
understand.
lived through the same kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then about why me? Why did I make it? You know, a redheaded Jewish boy from Brooklyn. How did I become, whatever word you want to use, celebrity star? You know,
How did you become a star?
I choke at the word star, but people call him, now they're calling me a show business icon, and like, you know. And
I like to say an other. You're other than a star. You're beyond star. You're beyond celebridom.
Thank you. I've known since I was 2 years old I was going into show business. I've always known it. I've known it since the first time I saw I Love Lucy.
When's your birthday, Geoffrey? Not the year, the date.
As Miss Ball might say, my birthday is September 19th, period.
That way, they'll never be past that. I love that. Okay, I just wanted to see. I felt a little Leo up in there, and then Virgo.
No, I'm a Virgo. I'm a Virgo.
I can see where your rising might be Leo somewhere. We don't want to get into astrology, but go ahead.
But I believe in God, and I've been gifted. I should have died when I was born. My mother was very ill with me. I was taken out early to save her life, not to save my life. I wish I could find a cute way to say this. I'm a genius.
Say it. Just
I'm
say
a genius.
It.
My IQ is 100.
You're a genius, damn it. Say you're a genius. There ain't nothing wrong with being a genius. What's wrong with that?
I'm a genius, damn it. My IQ is 160. My IQ is 163.
Really?
And I have from 9 months forward, I pretty much remember everything I ever saw or heard or experienced.
Yeah, you're using a lot of the brain. See, we'll
I
have
mean,
to talk to you again because I believe that the
anytime.
brain is untapped. To me, the brain is still very, very untapped.
If you go into my childhood years and give me a date, I can tell you what I had for breakfast that day.
Oh, shut up.
That kind of
That
retentive
kind of
memory.
memory, yeah.
I am a funny guy. I am a great singer. I'm
Who
a
knew?
very, very good writer. I'm good looking.
And you're adorable.
And I'm
And
adorable.
you got, when you see him out there, what I first noticed was what he was wearing. And we're going to have to go because it's 1:45, so I'm going to have to get your social media information and all of
Oh,
that.
sure.
But what I noticed,
I want just 1 minute to finish my thought.
yeah, go ahead.
Those were all gifts from God.
Yes.
I can't take a bow for any of that. What I can take a bow for is having a moment of clarity and knowing these were my gifts and this is what I was supposed to be doing, and then doing it. I got kicked out at 15 for being gay. I made my first movie a year later. So why me? Because I suited up, showed up, faced my fear, and did it. And then with the help of everyone from Milton Berle to the names would stun you. And the sparkles that I wear, Rip Taylor's idea. And the jewelry I wear was Carol Channing's idea. And the scarves I wear were Kay Ballard's. I mean, I have been helped a lot. I'm a grateful, grateful man who lives in gratitude. I live in what do I have, not what am I missing?
Mm-hmm.
And I try to spread love everywhere I go and be a blessing to everyone I meet. Ta-da! Now,
and you've been a blessing to our show today, and we have to get out of here. I'm sorry, you guys. It's 1:45 and I gotta go. But anyway, we gotta go. But I want you to say your social media tags, how we can get a hold of you. I want to talk about and want you to tell us where we're gonna find The Devil Was Born in Brooklyn, which is one of your books, and also Geoffrey Mark Plays Ella.
Geoffrey Mark Plays Ella is my weekly radio show. It's on
where can we hear that?
It's on the radio in several cities around the country. And if you can't get it where you live, go online, any of the platforms that have podcasts. It's there. Just choose your favorite. It's there.
Okay.
I'm on Facebook, Geoffrey Mark with a GEOFFREY. I'm on Instagram, Geoffrey Mark Showbiz. I've gotten off of X. I'm on Blue Sky at Geoffrey Mark.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 3 books coming out in the next 18 months. The new Lucy book, my autobiography, which is The Devil Was Born in Brooklyn, has not been published yet. And I just am signing for a new book to write for someone else. So I'm a busy, busy boy. All of my stuff can be found either at Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore, or on Amazon.
Wow. I am honored. I mean it in every cell of my body to even come into your presence and to be able to talk to you and feel all of those energies through you, because they are all still very much alive. And I'm glad that they can expose themselves through you since I needed to meet them. That's a great way I can do it. So can we have you back on our show at some point?
You may have me on as often as you would like.
I would love to have you back. Okay, so we are going to get out of here. Thank you again for joining us. Don't forget me. I cannot do this without you. I need the numbers, people. So sign, subscribe, join the channel, say hello. Come on and listen to us at LA Talk Radio Live. And I'll see you next week. Don't forget to smile. It works wonders. Bye-bye. Thank you, Geoffrey. Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, you too, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
You are listening to 15 Minutes, the show with Osiris Munir, only on LA Talk Radio.